Benito High School District Board of Trustees meeting this evening. Unfortunately, our normal president, Steve DeLay, has to be absent this evening, so I'm going to preside as the clerk. It's 10 after 7, so let's begin with the pledge of allegiance to the flag. Juan, you want to lead us?
With the honor. Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is additions or changes to the agenda or any consent items that someone wants pulled.
I move approval.
Second. Shawn, you want to vote on that? Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, thank you. And are there any visitors that would like official recognition this evening that are in the audience? Anybody? Okay, thank you. Okay, now is the time we set aside for public comments and presentations. And I think as most people know, these are items that are non-agenda items, so the board can't really make comments back to you if you're presenting, but we can listen and we can ask clarifying questions, and we can ask that issues be placed on future agenda items. But with that, we have one card, Monica Rodriguez.
A little over a year ago, I wrote a comment to this board and about then current Superintendent Morales. It was a factual description of his concerning behavior. I warned the board that he would do something that this community would never forget. The next board meeting, the San Benito High School Teachers Association President Foster spoke and wrote libelous and slanderous things about me and my husband, who was a trustee at that time. As every person has a right to do, I filed a complaint about a retaliation. She tried to stop my complaint by contacting the DA. The San Benito High School District and board hired an attorney from Sacramento area familiar with defending educational institutions. He focused only on her right to speak and nothing regarding my rights, being a whistleblower or being protected from retaliation. I asked to appeal the decision. So the superintendent that I had complained about was given a task by the San Benito High School Board to present to them why I should or should not get an appeal. The decision was predictable. I was not allowed an appeal. By ruling against me, another teacher felt entitled to continue Foster's defamation in the freelance to attempt to destroy our reputations. We are people who have fought for 15 years for educational integrity and for this community's children. I see this as a lesson for this institution. This board, along with other boards, will protect their districts from possible litigation before it protects anyone from abuses of power, intimidation, and legal violations. The board failed to heed my warning about the superintendent's questionable behavior. This decision eventually brought San Benito High School District negative publicity in the news reports by KSBW, the freelance, and Benito Link about the superintendent's behavior and legal problems. This is a lesson to all in education that choose to protect the district, thus condoning the employee's behavior and violations of law. Everyone should remember the right, legal, and moral thing to do is to protect those people, employees, who bring forward concerns, issues, and complaints. These people should be protected from intimidation and retaliation because they spoke up. As the whistleblower laws, education laws, the Brown Act, and the First Amendment state, the duty to protect should be part of this district's and board's job. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons in the audience that would like to address the board on non-agenda items?
CSEA?
Yeah, I was going to get to that. Is there any rep from CTA that would like to address the board? I don't think so. So, CSEA, you're up.
Good evening. My name is Jill Echian, and I'm a member of the CSEA negotiating team. I would like to take this time to thank the trustees for the excellent guidance that it provided to the San Benito High School District's administration during the latest negotiation process. On behalf of CSEA chapter number 173, we would also like to thank the district's negotiation team as well. CSEA came away from the table satisfied with the results, and we look forward to beginning new negotiations soon as our current bargaining contract ends on July 1st, 2017. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
The board did not take any action in closed session this evening. We didn't have any student matters before us during closed session. I don't believe that we have any minutes to approve. Okay.
Next week.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we'll move right on to our regular agenda. The first up is world language. Ed Schmidt's going to present.
Buenas noches, señoría.
What'd you say? Ed speaks German, too.
Okay, good evening. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here. And I did send you a report, and this is just kind of some other stuff and related stuff. So I do want to report on some positive trends for our advanced placement CAT, actually for our PLC classes or groups rather. Okay, as you were aware, this was at the presentation last week. Those are the 4 words that we discussed in that meeting. And we did again talk about that afterwards with my department, and so we're all on board. And my department is moving towards becoming a really good PLC, or having good PLCs. You've seen this. And so where we are right now is we're probably right around the middle of stage 5. And you know, at our school, all PLCs are probably in different stages, but we're kind of right there. You know, we have common assessments now, and we administer them, and we're starting to analyze student data, and these are kind of the stages of growth, and so we're looking to get to 7 and beyond, and that's where we are, and I'm very proud of my department. They do a good job of accepting challenges and putting the egos aside and saying, let's get better. And it's very difficult at this point to being at PLC, because we're at the point where you got to trust each other, and you need to be willing to take some criticism. And it's like when my colleague here walked in, he heard his voice on the presentation he's going to make, and you hear your voice, and right? PLC's the same thing. Sometimes it's a little when you see a result. So I'm very proud of where we are. Common assessments. Okay, we're using EDMs, and I told you last year we're going to do this as much as possible. There we go. What's going on here? All right. But we've worked to standardize assessments, ensure equity. Okay, we want all the tests to be the same, and we've upgraded our use of EDMs. We've had challenges, but my department, like I said, they're willing to do this. And we had a discussion last week, and we all agreed. Let's be more efficient. Let's work together. Let's collaborate, and let's put our egos aside and work together. And so we've come a long ways, and EDMs is one thing that helped prove it to us. And I would be glad to show you guys at a later time what we do in EDMs, but we use it quite extensively, and we've had a lot of success with it. And it's it's not the favorite of everybody. This is an example of some data. This is just the chapter test, and these are different sections. This, I just pull this off on a spreadsheet on Excel, and we look at it. These are the scores, the average in each section for a certain number, and this helps us determine which teacher's doing a better job. And again, I'm sharing you this because it's my name, and a new teacher who's doing very well. And this is great for her to see that overall her kids are scoring as well as my kids are. And for me, I'm a little jealous. I want to kill her. I want to destroy her. And at the same time, I want her to succeed. So it's nice. And I do tell my kids, how did she score? Her kid scored X on that number, and we scored below. How is that possible? And so I kid around with them, and they kind of take a little pride, what they are. But again, it's difficult to see your scores next to your colleagues' scores, and we would never share these out with people, but within our PLCs and within that trust, we do that because we're going to find out who's doing well at certain things, and we're going to find out how we can, okay?
And just real quick, not to interrupt you, but on the bottom where it says, the black, you have the banded colors, where it's black, red, black, red.
Black, red is so that you can see the different numbers and keep them apart. The purple is the average for that section.
Okay.
This is just something I do to, I kind of have fun with Excel. Hate to admit it, but it's kind of fun for me. It's the little bit of accountant in me that I want to not admit to. But we're ready to move on. We're doing chapter tests. That's a little too late. We agreed last week in our meeting, because we decided in our department we're going to do the same thing. And one thing we want to do is evaluate chunks of information so that we can fix those things before the chapter test. This was a good step. This is an intermediary step. But we need to move on and go to where we're helping our kids more. Okay, again, this is just like last year. ASL is exploding. Zero period. Okay, I don't know what happened here.
Go backwards.
How'd I do that?
The arrow. Arrow, use the arrow.
The arrow instead of the...
These things, all right. Okay, so again, our department's helping the school. We have a lot of zero period. We have a lot of sections now. ASL is a really good class. And you might think, oh, ASL is easy. Go in there and try to follow along. And you'll think you're in another country and you're like a lost tourist. Because you won't understand anything. And they're going crazy fast. So it's a nice class for a lot of kids. They like it. Okay, last year I showed you 28 pictures of Chromebooks to give you a hint. And it worked because you got those Chromebooks. And I want to remind you, okay, I promised to help. This promised to help. And I gave you my word, and we've come through. It's delivered. It's helped our delivery of instruction. We started using Google Classroom now in our department, and it's fun. We're sharing ideas, and there are so many things we can do in Google Classroom, and then, I'm sharing with other departments, other divisions, and it's a really good platform. We really like that. All of our tests now, about 80% of the kids that take tests in our department, it's like 100% online, and so it helps them with SBAC and other stuff. And there's so many neat tricks and things we can use as a teacher, and it makes it pretty easy. Boring things like conjugating verbs, I can go to a website and tell them, knock yourself out. And they'll do that for 10 minutes. I'd shoot myself, but they want to do that, and they'll just, and I set the parameters, and I tell them that they got to get a certain score, and then now it becomes a challenge, and they want to do it. So it's a good platform for those guys, and it's connected with our textbook, so it's been a really good thing. Okay? Thank you very much, by the way. Okay? Even those of you that weren't involved in that decision, I'm sure you would have said that. Have some things to end with. Okay? Cannot rectify problems if you deny that they exist. The data items that we get says problem. Okay? And you can't sweep it under the rug. It stays there. So it's nice. It makes you recognize that. Avoid problems and you'll never be the one to overcome them. Okay? It's funny that his name is Richard Back, but he steps forward. Okay, right here. This kind of is the PLC thing. It's just something I found earlier today, but it does. Where's the problem? How are you going to fix it? And in your group, decide what's best. Check it out. Check the results out. So that's, and again, Chromebooks. So thank you very much for the Chromebooks. It's made a revolutionary change in our department. We've done a lot of good things, and it's helped us look forward. I did show you this picture last year. That is a bear in the forest that wants to eat me, and all I have is a little flashlight. Okay? And before last year, I feel we're just walking through the dark, hoping to stay on the trail. And that has changed now. And now at least we can see the fork in the road and we know which way to turn. And again, as I said, my department is doing a great job of saying, let's do it. Let's be the same. Let's be standardized. Let's make equity happen for our students. And let's make it easier for ourselves. So, thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, sir.
This is a history lesson, but did we ever have Spanish 4?
No, we just have the AP language.
No, but we used to.
1, 2, 3, 4.
At one point we did.
Okay, I just wondered, because as I was looking through there, they got rid of
It's
Spanish.
been a while.
And do you want to remind me, you saw the results, our Spanish language AP test was 100%.
Yes, I saw that.
That was very good.
Yeah, and the other thing that's nice is our native speakers, in the second year, they take that same test.
Yeah.
Now, their scores weren't as good. I mean, there weren't as many, but I think it's an issue of kids not having the money to take the test. I know they've done a lot with the administration trying to get those kids to take the test, and that's good. And that has allowed our AP Lit class to grow because those kids, they transition from 2S right into the AP Lit class. And that's a great class for kids. It gives a lot of those kids, it gives them a lot of confidence to think, yeah, I can do college. And that hasn't been the case before. You know, for a lot of kids, that's good.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Are you concerned with the numbers in French?
Yes, I am.
So, do you have any suggestions, and is there anything we as a board could do to support your idea?
I'll get back to you as far as what our French teacher thinks.
I can give you a quick update. So the good news is that Madame Saga did a really good job at the end of last year and obviously this year, and our French numbers are up. In fact, they're up, and I can provide you with details as far as what the differences between last year and this year. But there is definitely a notable increase. I think that all of her efforts, she's definitely gone out of her way to get into schools. She's really done a good job of getting going and focusing over at Hallsville Language Academy, because those students have an opportunity to be trilingual in some of our other feeder schools. So she's been very involved in the outreach, and she's done a great job. So I can tell you there's a notable increase in French, so she's done good.
Yeah, it's still quasi-critical area. That's why I made that comment in the report. But but she's made a lot of effort to recruit kids and get them in there.
In your report here, you've got, due to lack of funding, we have not been into many conferences. So is there something that we can do as a board to help get you guys to more conferences?
Sure. I mean, if you
I think
approve
it's
the
something we
curriculum
should
and
look at.
you let curriculum know that you'd like to see us go to some conferences, stuff that makes sense. I mean, one thing about PLCs, I'm going to talk in general at the school. You know, you can have a PLC and it could be your goal and everything, but if people at the school don't know what PLCs are and how they work, you're just having a meeting. And I know more than the average person because it's not much more, but you know, like I've been at the board meeting last week and I have an idea, and I'm a division chair, so I said, but your average teacher, they don't know, and they don't know what it really means. It's just another thing, another cycle that we're going through in education. teachers need to know what PLCs are, how they function, and how they can fit into that in general. And that's something that our department needs. And you know, every spring there's a conference for foreign language teachers
So
that
would
we'd
be
like to
definitely-
be able to spend some money to go there.
You also mentioned that we need to adopt a textbook for 1S and AP Spanish. Is that something that you guys have been looking at?
AP
pilot?
Spanish were good. That
Okay.
might have been my mistake, but the textbook for
1S?
Spanish 1S, but it's very difficult to find
It's
that
hard
type
to
of
find
textbook.
one.
Yeah. It's
Could you go with maybe, you know, Mexico must have, you know, certain tests that they use to teach accentuation and, you know, beginning right. Is there anything like that around?
yeah, and what we're looking at too is like some pre-AP textbooks. Because what we did this year that, I don't know if I mentioned it, our 2S class and our AP Spanish language are using the same textbook. Therefore, they're using the same common assessments. Now, this population needs different things than the other population, but you want to get to the same spot. So it's been very helpful. That's a great text. And there's been a lot of collaboration. It's not a one-man band anymore, which really makes it difficult. So they've done a lot of good collaboration.
In Spanish 2S, we used to have La Voz. Do you guys still do that?
La Voz is like
There
that.
was a newsletter produced by the Spanish 2S students.
They used to work in collaboration with our newspaper tech writing course, and they used to publicize it.
But before that, it was just a newsletter. We used to pump it out ourselves and send it out to.
It'd be a good idea to do that online and make a modern version of it. La Voz Moderna.
There is a PLC conference in San Jose in July. You guys are already aware? Is that something that we're looking to send, not just department heads to, but like more teachers?
Yeah, we, one of the things, and I can elaborate more on my principal's report, but one of the things that we're doing as an instructional leadership group is assessing the specific needs of each department to get away from a one-size-fits-all approach. But absolutely, you know, the department says, you know, because PLC is not like a thing, it's a cult, it's culture.
Well, that's why I said this
Yeah.
is literally like the PLC model.
Right.
So if more people, like he says, people, you can PLC all you want, but if you don't really understand what the model is, and you don't really know what you're getting out of it. But if
So
we sent more according to this.
Yeah, so absolutely, I think that we have some DCs that have a very good pulse on what specific needs are. We have some that are going through that process right now. So any group that said, hey, we really need to get out there and be exposed to what this culture looks like, absolutely we can do that. I've been to about 5 or 6 of them, and no matter how many times I go, you always get something.
Well, we got a big kick out of the one.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's excellent.
So I know Mr.
Absolutely.
Ford's not around anymore, but this is based on that model. So it's definitely a thought of not just, like I said, if we're just sending department chairs, yes, they have to deliver the information. You can't always get everyone on board, correct? You have to wait. It's hard to put your egos aside. Most teachers do, but if you're going to, then maybe the ego teachers need to go.
You know what?
You know?
I think this brings up a really interesting point, Adrian, is if you could work with Cindy and her office, I'd love to see an assessment on 140 certificated staff members and who's deploying the PLC and when. Because we've done this for a number of years, but we've had
You got a huge
teachers
turnover.
matriculate, we've had new teachers come, and that way we can assess who's actually been to, the DeFors or Solution Trees or whomever.
Because when we've been to Vegas, there was quite a bit of San Benito teachers there in Vegas, and that's been a good 8 or 9 years. So
I'll go to
it's
Vegas.
a thought.
And I had 2 thoughts I wanted to share with you.
Yes, sir.
One is, I want to commend you for your leadership as
Thank you.
division chair. If all 9 of our DCs took their role as earnestly as you do and applied with the same vigor and believed in what we're trying to do, everybody would be at the same stage as your department when you pointed it out. So it's hard to be honest and transparent, and I really appreciate that. The second is I'm a firm believer that in our network of individuals and staff members, that you make a difference as a change agent because you touch close to 15 or 16 different teachers that we cannot on a daily basis, and for that I'm really appreciative.
Thank you very much.
You know, you were looking at Spanish versus French, and I'm glad that, you know, Michelle Lazaga and Ms. Lazaga are doing this. But as I was looking at it, I noticed that A through G had an increase in world languages, including sign language. And I'm wondering if there's how much HDLA has had with Spanish growing. And I'm glad she's going down there to tell them, hey, let's try to be trilingual. But that could be a reason why Spanish is growing so much. You know, people out there have wondered if French is the language we ought to be teaching. At Live it was German, and in some schools it's Italian. But I'm wondering, you know, Spanish is a great one to learn because it makes sense. You know, a lot of people speak Spanish. I'm wondering what else she can do to increase her numbers, because I'd like to see languages at this school. You know, I don't want to see that die out. And if French isn't going to cut it, what language will? What other language will? I'll tell you, I'm glad we got the American Sign Language here. That really did a lot for us.
Yeah, and I want to point out too that the ASL it serves a population of kids that are, you know, they're tactile learners. It's just that's right up their alley. You know, it helps those kids that aren't your typical auditory learners, your visual learners. You know, so yeah, but we'd appreciate any help with conferences and.
It's definitely what we've done.
So,
Thank you.
all right.
Any more questions? Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next is our EC report from physical education.
Desktop, Brian. You want me to ice it? What's that?
Oh, it's not good.
Do you have language that we have in South
Are you going to put us to work, Mr. DeCarli?
What's that?
Are you going to put us to work today?
I would love to if we have volunteers, but we're not going to make anything that.
We have a lot of students in the island. Hey,
So the one we're looking at right now is the one without me speaking. We can kind of go through it unless you want to. Here I sent it out. Would you like to hear the audio with me not talking and just talking? Or would you like me to just have the presentation and just kind of go through some of the highlights?
What would you like? Go to the highlights.
Okay.
Make it easy on you. You got
Okay,
to go
so it'll be a little more uncomfortable sitting there listening to myself talking.
It's okay, I already heard you, Brian. I listened to the whole thing. It is.
What? It's a book on table.
Hey, so as they figure it out, good evening.
Good evening.
I hope you did listen. Well, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But I sent out my board report to you guys with a recording over the top in case you wanted to hear it and elaborate on it. And if you had questions this evening, you could ask those of me. I also submitted the report without any audio, so you can just kind of rifle through it and read it at your own leisure. So, like John was saying, he didn't know if I was going to be here, so I was planning ahead of time to not be here. But no, I plan on being here the whole time. I just wanted to give you guys a little more foundation, and that way you had some more bullets to fire at me if needed.
No bullets.
As
as we're bringing it up, I did want to say that, number one, I'd like to thank a couple people. It's always good to thank people for these things. My liaison, Mr. Tennenbaum over there, he's our physical education liaison, and I know he was PE prior, and he's always been really good and really easy to work with. What I like about him is he's out of it now, and he always brings back good questions for me, and I can reflect back on. Mr. Ramirez has really been really good to work with. This is my first year as a division chair. Really supportive in us as a unique department and trying to help us figure out our needs specifically for PE. Claire Grissom, who I've worked very closely with this year with scheduling courses. She's been outstanding to work with in my role. I go by her office quite a few times a week, and she's really open to my suggestions, and she bounces stuff off me, and she listens. Last one would be Cindy Krokauer, Ms. Krokauer over there, who we implemented health this year into a PE curriculum. And she was the first one I went to asking, hey, we need some up-to-date resources. We need more support for our students. And she was all thumbs up, and we were able to get supplies that upgrade our health curriculum outside that Glen Cove Reading Health book. And we were able to have some different resources, some presentation pieces, some PowerPoints, some videos, and kind of all the background materials to go along with those. And so she was at the front of that, so letting that happen for us. So I would like to thank those individuals. So the highlights. Yeah. All right, thank you very much. So I wanted to really focus on a couple things because you guys all received the report, and if I'm blowing past something that you guys wanted me to come back to, I can't elaborate on those things. A couple of things that are really at the forefront for us, especially this year. The one thing I'd first like to start off with would be our facilities. We have brand new facilities, and we're very fortunate, thankful for those. We have a new weight room, and the weight room has students in it all class periods of the day, starting with 0 period all the way through the regular school day. There's not one single class period that you can go by there and it's empty. The only reason why it's empty is there's a substitute for that class period. We don't allow substitutes to take the kids into the weight room for that day, so we have an alternate activity. So we have that weight room, and again, between 0 period all the way through the day, and then after school, it's used as well. But we have students in there ranging from probably 45 to 62 students every single class period. In 0 period, it's even more. They're instructed. It's not a free lift opportunity. All our teachers, Coach Cameron and myself. Coach Cameron has the majority of the weightlifting classes. I have a 0 period class that gets in as well. Mrs. Villegas has one in the morning. Mrs. Cunningham has 2 personal fitness classes that actually also access that facility. Beautiful, beautiful facility. I believe in our old weight room we had 8 squat racks, and I believe in the new one we have 24. And if you go in there, and hopefully we can tour it at some point with students in the classroom, you'll be amazed at, number one, how nice it still looks, how effective, how well the students are actually working, but also at the same time, there's not any extra space anywhere. We're still utilizing all that square footage and all that space. Adjacent to that is the PE and the wrestling room that our classes are able to access. And I'll tell you what, we do use that room, especially this year. Thank goodness we have that room, because with all the rain and everything else that we've had, we've been able to go in there, access it, and use that room in a lot of different capacities, including using that room for our fitness testing. So that's another room that, again, you put those 60+ students in there, and it fills up, and we do use it. Tennis courts, we have brand new tennis courts, and we do use those as well. We have units that involve like tennis, for example, and we do some warm-ups and other activities out there. Again, you go out there when we have a tennis unit, all the courts are used, and they're all used. I mean, it's amazing. You look at these facilities, like, wow, there's a lot of space. But we have the student population to actually fill those. We have north of 250 students, I believe, every class period in PE. So we have a lot of use for those. I would like to go back to one other thing with our new facilities. What we've also done is we've had the students basically fill out a contract. You're going to abide by these rules in these new facilities. So at the beginning of the year, before they're allowed in, we sit there and we show them what our expectations are of the facilities. And the way we've even gone to the point where they have a picture of how the rack is, the weight on the rack, everything that's there, how it looks, because they expect it to be in the same shape at the end of the class period. So they sign that and they go in. There's some things on there that maybe you take for granted, maybe you don't. We don't allow things like backpacks in the room, because inside backpacks are food items that get crushed and put in there, pens and pencils, which unfortunately can lead to vandalism or puncturing of materials. So all the backpacks are obviously hopefully left in the locker room. If not, we lock them up in a room when students come late to class. So we have expectations in our new facilities prior to the students actually entering them. We don't just allow them free access and just kind of everything goes type of thing, just so to let you know that we have the facility's best interest at heart. The second thing I wanted to speak on, and just kind of highlighting through here, I was going to mention our testing on our fitness testing at the end. Actually, I can probably do that now. I broke down how we are in relation to the state as far as our fitness testing is concerned. And I will go through these first, and I'll kind of show you, because it's no longer, if you remember how you and I went to this school and we had PE or the movies, where it's like, okay guys, we're going to go out there and run the mile, go, hey, we're going to go do push-ups. How many can you do in a minute? Go. All right, how many sit-ups can, there's 6 components that we test on now, and they're structured in such a way that in theory, every school in the state is assessing the students in the same manner. I can't vouch for the other schools, but I can say that protocols are in place to allow everybody to assess their students in the same fashion. So if you look at our overall summary, and again on here, what I was able to do, some of this information is kind of difficult to pull off of the state portals, and I can't scroll over, but right here we have overall summary. So these are all our students in relation to the state. And we are really in line with everything. The only thing that we are kind of underperforming at in general is the upper body strength. And I'll tell you my thought on that in a little bit. Everything else is in line. If you talk about aerobic capacity, which is a component of your VO2 max, which is it's a mild time, but I'll kind of go into that a little more. Your BMI, your body composition, is the calculation of your height and your weight. Abdominal strength is what you guys would refer to as a sit-up or curl-up. Upper body strength, push-up, for example. We have 2 flexibility tests, the trunk extension and the, I shouldn't say, let's see, trunk. There's a sit and reach component. Maybe that was mislabeled there. But as you can see, the only thing that we're really kind of sagging below the state average is upper body strength. If you do break that down, because we are on that 5 to 6 component we've talked about a few different times in these board meetings. Percent in grade 9 here at the high school, and again you have to add those numbers up, but at San Benito High School, 61% of the 9th grade students currently, and this is from last year, successfully completed 5 out of 6 fitness tests. In relation, we are just a little, hair above the state. Okay, they're at 59.4% if you add those 2 top columns up. So we are just a little ahead of the state average on 5 out of 6. We can break it down into the females and the males, and everything is pretty kind of toe in line. Upper body strength, again, you see that the only discrepancy we have really is upper body strength. And I'll highlight that because that is our need of growth. State, 72% in females, and for us, we're right at 63%. Breakdown with the 5 out of 6 component on the female side, 54.8% of the female population at the high school currently has the 5 out of 6 completion. In comparison, 58% in the state. So again, I think that is kind of directly tied with them specifically with some of the upper body components. Again, the male summary is pretty much in line. And with the 5 out of 6 component here at the high school, 66.4% of the male population completed, satisfied the 5 out of 6 requirement, as opposed to 62% in state. Our 2-year comparison comparison, I kind of broke this down too, because I don't really love numbers like Mr. Schmidt, but I do enjoy looking at numbers as well. 2015-16 new push-up testing devices were purchased, and that's where we're really seeing that change. So one of my props would be our push-up tester. We used to do a lot of different things. All right, I think everybody did. All right, guys, you have a minute. How many push-ups can you do? Just do them to exhaustion. What these push-up testers do is it allows you to get a 90-degree bend, and across our departments, we all use them. So when we're testing, it's completely 100% tied in with the rest of the department. So there isn't me doing it at a minute and someone else doing, or a judgment call on how low you can get. Let's count push-ups or whatever. Every time, I'm gonna do one.
5 demonstrations?
I'm gonna do one. Chest is hitting the pad. Okay, if the pad beats, if the pad beats, then score a push-up. Okay, if it doesn't beat, you're not getting deep. So the big thing is a lot of the stuff in a lot of the classes, it's not necessarily just, in whatever class, you have to front load and show the students how to test. So what we do is we spend a lot of time up at the beginning of the year showing, okay, this is how you're going to take the test. Not just, okay, let's just practice push-ups. How are you going to take the test? Okay, so a lot of it has to do with just technique, but also you just have to be comfortable with the test. So we'll come down, and there's a cadence that's on, it's rated down, up. But the thing is, when you're actually going down, you have to get to that 90 degree, and you have to hear that beat. Once you come up, then it's going to score 1 here. So they have actual visual to see what number they're on as well.
Do they pause run like you pause?
I'm going to show you. So there's a cadence. So it'll say down, up, 1. It's really, really exciting. And we play it like we play it in the gym, over the loudspeakers, and it's down, up. Up, so, and the same thing for the sit-ups, just reverse order. But there is a cadence, so you can't go at your own speed. There are form breaks you're allowed, and the form breaks meaning, you're dipping your hips, something's not right, maybe you're a little behind the schedule. You're allowed 3 form breaks on a lot of these different tests, and at that point we stop the test. One thing I'll just show you, just because it's kind of funny, you see a lot of students, they'll miss it, and we have to catch them because they'll go down, or it didn't beat, and then they'll go. They'll try to cheat the system, so you have to be aware of all those things. So that's our push-ups.
Do the girls do them on their knees?
No,
They do
there's
them
no
like on their
modifications.
toes?
There are no modifications, so they're all doing them the same exact way. The fitness tests in the state, they have the healthy fitness zones. They're the ones that come up with those fitness zones. We assess and we record and we look for those form breaks. John and the wonderful tech guys, they actually did it really cool to where it used to be where we'd have to lug in like the CD player or the big system, for the cadence, like down, up. Now we can listen to that boring thing right here on our phones or on our iPads, so we have Fitnessgram. And for example,
we'll now begin the push-up section. Ready? Begin. Down. Up. 1. Down. Up. 2. Down. Up. 3.
So depending on the period and how funny sometimes I'll play it like 30 of them, just because I just won't wait for them to say, can we stop it now? We get it. It's down, up, down, up. But there's a cadence, so they have to stay down and they have to push themselves up. That has really developed a lot of consistency within our departments, because now we're all doing the same exact thing. So then when we go to collaborate and talk about, hey, Maxine, Mrs. Cunningham, you're kicking our butt in push-ups or in this test or that, what are you doing that we're not? And we definitely know that we're doing the same test. What are you doing differently in your class, for example, that we're not, that we can work on, we can learn from? So each category has a separate requirement. It's a different healthy fitness zone. Trunk lift and flexibility. Basically, a trunk lift is a trunk flexibility test where they're laying on the ground on your stomach, hands to the side. Now all we're doing is we're measuring the distance between the ground and the chin. We have a sit and reach. Sit and reach box where we put up against the wall, shoes are off, And it's a hamstring flexibility test where they're sitting there with their shoes off, feet underneath, hand over hand, and they're reaching out on the box, and we're scoring both for the left and the right. So the 2 flexibility tests, push-ups.
Brian, do they have to have both feet in the box?
No, it's one. It's one and the other. Yeah, it's 1 foot, and then we tell them to switch, and then they do the other one. Yeah, so there's 2 separate components of it. Really, flexibility is one of the ones everybody really achieves really well on.
Is there a lot of variation between legs for kids?
For the guys a lot more, but guys just in general, we see they're not quite as flexible. On the state website, they do have what we follow, and these are the charts. And so the Healthy Fitness Zone changes based on your gender, your age, and then in some components your BMI, your height and weight. So the aerobic capacity one, the reason why it doesn't say mile anymore, it's no longer all right, you need a 6-minute, 30-second mile to pass. Now it's a calculation. It's a VO2 max calculation, basically talking about how much oxygen your body is able to use energy-wise. So it has to do with your age, your gender, your height, your weight, and then your mile time. So you and I could be running the same mile, but he passes and I not because he's younger, he's more in shape, he weighs less, so I have a different passing time. So it's no longer a true one, and like, hey, you passed 6:30 mile, maybe you're done. Also, a big misconception on our fitness testing is it's a one and done, meaning that we test you one time and you pass, and you fail. We test multiple times. Our testing window for freshmen opens February 1st and goes basically through all of May. Yes. So we can pre-assess before that and get them baselines and say, hey, these are the areas that we need to work on. And then we can actually officially test again in February. So what that means, but then we test them multiple times. Like, for example, what I did today was I was able to pull off, we have everything completed. So those students that did not pass tests, I put them up so by their ID numbers. And so they just can reference ID number, and then they can see which tests they still need to make up. And so we'll have days moving on through this next couple months where we'll have days placed that we're going to go and retest on certain of those components that we need to pass. So it's not a one and done. We've tested them multiple times, giving them several opportunities to pass these tests. And the last thing I wanted to kind of finish with, just kind of piggyback Mr. Schmidt a little bit, as far as supports, is that we would love the opportunity for conferences, but I'll tell you what we would like as well, and I don't know, it might be cheaper, or it might not be, I don't know, is just to go and look at other schools, go and just observe other schools and just see, hey, you guys are really doing well in this particular category. Why? What are you doing that we're not? Or what methods are you doing? So I, talking with our department at times, they would like the opportunity just to kind of get out and just get exposure to other schools. I know we do a lot of that going to other schools, and I know the department would like to just go and check out some different PE programs.
So Brian, for example, not to interrupt you there, but I think it's a really solid idea. So for example, in aerobic capacity, if you found a school within striking distance that had an excellent percentage,
absolutely,
you might send 1 or 2 staff members.
Yeah, and then they could share out with us.
So what I would suggest is maybe write a proposal to Adrian and Cindy on identifying, six areas who you would like to visit, who would attend, and what your takeaway and your plan of attack would be for implementation based on what you're doing.
Okay, sounds good.
I would fully support that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're doing with Great Oaks. It's what we're doing with the WASC visits. It's what we're trying to get our map department to do. Yep. Be happy to support that.
Do you have any questions for me? Yes, sir.
Besides physical fitness, I noticed holistic PE too. We're also going to expose them to ultimate frisbee, soccer, badminton, softball, tennis, basketball, swimming. How do you grade all of these different things?
We do a lot of performance-based grading because we have so many people. So we'll have For example, say you're talking archery, what we'll do is we'll do some mini checking for under common formatives where we're going out there, maybe it's 3 or 4 points about how they're lining up. So we'll build into their point structure for the day. How they're lining up, proper technique, and some different things. Yeah, the written thing is a little more difficult. We do that for the finals. There are some written pieces, but it's hard when you're on the field and there's no pen or paper.
Teach them rules and stuff like that?
Yes, of course. Yeah, we start off with the rules. Basic fundamentals. What I learned really early on was you cannot assume anything. I had, one of my first years here, we were out playing softball, and I had a young man who hit the ball, and he ran down to third base. And I said, okay, sorry, we got to start with just basic rules, basic fundamentals. And so after that point, yes, we'll go to the fundamentals first. We'll build. Every class period is different, so I like to kind of assess them early on as far as just let them have a little early play to see kind of where their skill set is. And then maybe that second class period, we'll bring it back in and really start structuring as far as rules, regulations, and actually how to play.
I have a couple.
Yes, ma'am.
First one being, I understand that, you guys are implementing health as of this year, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you don't have a definitive classroom, and
Right.
that is definitely a classroom-based something.
Yes.
Where do you guys?
All right.
teach?
So the cool thing is, you have to think on the fly. So what we figured out this year is that number one, it's a challenge because we have some class periods where we have. I think there might be one class period where we have one freshman class. I think I have one end of the day class that just one. Other than that, there are multiple freshman classes all at one time. So what we've done is we've taken over the auditorium. We've taken over the auditorium and we had presentations, almost like college type, as far as we have more of the surround seating. We have the multiple classes.
Like lecture.
Yeah, and then we're pulling down. They have the screens. We're pulling down the screen. John and the crew doing a great job. Ed and all those guys doing a great job helping set it up. So we are teaching in multiple class periods all at the same time. We're bringing the screen down, so we're presenting. We have some resource materials that we've pulled in, and then we have exit tickets, for example, as they leave. And what we found with a lot of rain this year, we've been using those rain days to pull them in, because a lot of times when you're in 1 or 2 gyms and you have 4 or 5 sections of PE, it's a great opportunity to send those kids to the auditorium and do those health lessons.
So
I'm a little bit of what's that?
Are you able to adapt? Because again, that's a lot of people in a little bit of place, right?
Yeah, we
so
have.
I just want to make sure that you guys have adequate facilities, correct, to teach your areas on suspected rainy days.
And the good thing about the PE wrestling room too is we have access there and we have the TV in there.
Okay.
So we've split it up. I brought my laptop in that wrestling room. Kids go and sit down, take their shoes off outside, and then before they get on the mats, we sit there and we have access to that facility as well. It's going to be a challenge regardless, just because of the sheer number. Even if it's just one class of 60, it's just a lot of students to sit down. But I think it's done a pretty good job.
Okay, because my concern was obviously this year has been an anomaly regarding rain, but again, that now forces you to rethink the box and that you're not losing teaching time.
Right. So yeah, we're trying to optimize it by moving them in. The auditorium's in pretty good. It's big enough, and we have the wrestling room as well. So we have 2 spaces that we can put those students in.
And then my next one is the kids these days are big. I mean, we all know that. They're huge. They're coming out huge. They're in lower grades. Huge. I don't know if it's genetically modified food with you, I have no idea. But the guidelines, the BMI guidelines, right? Your body mass index, they are, in some respects, don't match your kid. Does that make sense? They're never going to pass that area.
Yes.
Are you automatically waiving it, or are you telling the kid they didn't pass in that area? Because that's a worry for, it was a worry for my kid. My kid passed 5 out of 6 tests, didn't pass the BMI. Right. Clearly a size 5, can't get any smaller, 5'1", you know what I mean? Can't get any smaller, cheerleading, 3 sports, all year long, don't pass the test. At one point, they wanted to put her in PE the second year because of that test. And are we putting kids in just for BMI, or are we able to waive that?
That is where the 5 out of 6 component comes into play. That's why it's not a hard 6, because some of those factors are more or less out of our control.
But are you repeating them for that one test into the second year?
As far as my understanding, if you've satisfied your 5 out of 6 requirements, then it doesn't matter if you fulfilling that 6th requirement. Your 5 out of 6, you have the option.
So you're good then?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
That
the
was
four-
the
and
worry.
that
At
is the
that
reason-
point, that's
yeah.
what it was. You were being held.
So it is, as far as my understanding, and we assess them, if they're 5 out of 6 or more, 5 or 6, then they're able to opt out.
Because back then it wasn't. It's only been 2 years, or 1 year, right? Because she is now a junior. But it was, as of 2 years ago, they were ready to hold them for another year. And so I just didn't know if that was now a switch that we made school-wide, or if it's something that we're still holding for.
It's 5 out of 6 from the fitness grade.
Okay. And that's fine. That's it for me.
I got a question. How do you, as a department, how do you decide which sports to, kind of like teach and go through in your PE2 courses? I mean, you have an intriguing long list of different activities and sports, but how do you decide which one?
We try to separate it out. The easy answer would be we try to separate out. Course 1 and Course 2 should have separate units, meaning it should be the same class over again. So number 1, you try to separate them out. Number 2, the Course 1 class, which is the freshman class, is more of the team sports. Course 2 is more of the individual sports.
Okay.
So you separate out based on team versus individual, and then try not to replicate the same thing over 2 times. Yeah. You also have the upperclassmen for that second class. You also have the opportunity of taking, for example, weightlifting class or another class that falls under a different umbrella if they want to actually do some of that work as well.
Okay. As a department, are you really trying to cover all these different sports and activities?
I'll tell you what. Every 6 weeks, for a grading period, every 6 weeks we cycle through two units.
Okay.
So we try to hum through them. Yeah. So 3 weeks, rotate to another 3 weeks. The challenging thing is we do offer a lot of different activities. The challenging thing is if you look at our matrix as far as what everybody's doing every single day, trying to align it to where you don't have any more than enough field units where now then the gyms are sitting empty. So there's some of that as well where you have to figure, okay, we have 3 sections of freshmen. We're all supposed to be doing these 2 subjects. How are we going to get it done? Or having to rotate through so you have facilities in line to take care of all the units all the time. So that's probably the biggest challenge, just looking at the matrix and then when the rain comes, then it just throws everything into the wash.
Right.
So Brian, it's a really good question, Mr. Tiffany. So is every unit 8 days, 8 solid blocks of instruction for 3 weeks?
How we have it set up is over a grading period of 6 weeks, we'll have 3 weeks of one unit, followed by another 3 weeks of another unit. Yes. If there is overlap, say if we lose, if there's a rally or there's other things going on, we're losing days, and we'll push back, those days to make it work. So.
Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, so it's now not a mile time, it's aerobic capacity. So are there other activities aside from running that you can use to measure the VO2 max and
There's what you can do to measure the VO2 max. There's a pacer, which they do at a lot of different levels. It's a pacing test in like, for example, gym. They're going back and forth to a bell, and it's kind of the same kind of modified time.
But it's only running. The only way you can get there is through running?
Oh, for that component, for the passing? Yes, yeah. Well, there's a walk test. Walk test where it's a power walk. And so for the students at times, it's funny. The irony is you're telling them the whole time, run as fast as you can. Then you say, hey, this is going to be the walk test. You can't run. And it kind of blows their minds. Say, what do you mean? You can't run? We have to walk. So, but it's a power walk. So that is a measure. It's a mile. And then it's with the heart rate. So it's another calculation that you run or you walk a mile, record that. It's a calculation that means height, weight, gender, age, and then the heart rate as well.
So for aerobic capacity, you can walk or you can run.
There are other, yes, there are options, yeah, correct.
So you can put them on a stationary bike or put them in the pool?
Yeah, you can't, yeah, no. There are not those, no, the state doesn't allow us to do those things.
How do you build that capacity?
What's that?
What do you do to build?
So we put everything into EDIMS. EDIMS is our kind of our online database, and that runs the calculation for us, so it eliminates all the quote-unquote human error out of it. So we put in, well, it already has their age. Put in, we do the height and weights, and we input the other data, and then it kicks back to us if they met the standard or not. And we have to do some back work, because EDIMS isn't to the point where it tells us what we need to get them to do to pass. For example, like the mile, we have to kind of work backwards. Say if they ran an 8:30 mile.
But how do you build it so that these guys aren't going to die on the mile? You know, they're actually going to build what they call endurance to be able to.
As opposed to just throw them out there and just say run the mile. And,
go out there and jog.
So I mean, what we do is, we'll start off early in the year. It's a gradual build-up where we'll start running them, say a lap or two. We'll get it like, say for example, a 2-lap time. We'll talk to them about pacing, and about the need to, hey, that's half mile. That number in theory, if you pace yourself over the entire mile, that would be your mile time. We'll build up to, like, for example, a 3-lap, and then we'll have a couple tests throughout the year.
So you have them running during PE period?
Correct.
You don't tell them, okay, your homework is to run 5 miles?
No, unfortunately, no, we do not do that. No, we don't.
Because that was the biggest difference between PE class, football, and track. And track, okay, we're going to warm up with 8 miles, and then we're going to start exercising.
And you know what the challenging thing is, to be quite frank and honest, is that PE needs to be one of those things where it's enjoyable. So you don't want to sit out there, and you do not just want to run kids, or you don't want to just sit there and just do push-ups or sit-ups. I mean, there's an element to this to PE that needs to be enjoyable, because we can debate this all the way, but there's nothing more important than a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
So if you totally turn a student off or somebody off to physical education now, they're going to deal with this the rest of their life. So there is a fine line where you have, you got to run. We want to condition them, but at the same time, it can't be, an overkill thing where you're just totally turning them off to go up the whole class. So.
I got to share with you something on that. I did a walkathon before at ASB. Did you hear about that? I couldn't believe it. Anyway, they raised $3,300 through the PE department of Rancho for our beneficiary at this high school. And last year they raised the same amount for another kid who was 7 years old. And the way they did it is they only have 4 teachers, it's a smaller place in here. And now the teachers didn't have to do very much. All they had to do was just tell the kids about it. Well, the kids brought the money up, those that wanted to participate, but everybody still had to do their walk. And they had people, because they had to do 7 laps or 8 laps. But it was called a walkathon, but they were able to use that as a way to raise money. I thought, whoa, you have walkers all the time, and you're going to have to do it. And I thought that was a good cooperative cooperation with another fundraiser. And I thought that's a good way to get their aerobic capacity. And
I'll tell you what, and apparently I'm going to monopolize a lot of your time, so I apologize, but I've always thought, one thing you're talking about, the junior highs, one thing that I would love to see is with us, but I just think in general, I understand it's different school districts, but I would love collaborative time with, say, Rancho and Mays and some of the lower levels. I've had, some of those PE teachers call or text me, hey, what do you guys do for this? What do you guys do for that? And I said, man, I would love time to just kind of all sit down and do that. And we've never gotten to the point where we've actually done it. But I think, talk about, something that's really relatively inexpensive, and if we could get that together at some point, say,
Walk
hey.
over to Rancho.
Huh?
You guys can walk over to Rancho.
Hey, because I think that'd be a great opportunity for us to kind of collaborate back and forth.
Well, you would get stronger kids, because I can tell you, like, the PE program out of my school was pretty aggressive, and these kids come here excelling. The one from Spring Grove, they come here excelling, and because they're running from 4th grade on, And
They also
I
come here
think-
with a handshake and a hello too.
Yes, and then look at your face, but I just think that if you had more collaboration,
Yeah.
vertical articulation, your kids would come in stronger if those teachers knew how to prepare your kids.
Well, Brandon, I think this brings up a really interesting point because we are moving forward with the idea to have early release on every Thursday next year as a way to have not only better internal collaboration, but external collaboration with all of our feeder districts. So what I'm hearing is that you would take advantage of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And utilize that to, our best interest, but also all of our students in our community's best interest.
I think that'd be phenomenal talk. Because a lot of PE coaches, they just take the kids out and play with them. So the teachers are in the classroom getting their prep time and they're out there playing. But if it's unorganized, well, like we do ultimate frisbee and lacrosse and archery and hockey, and so if they had, and we don't even have a ton of equipment, it's how you strategically use it.
And we know from from the students coming up, for example, like archery. All right, I know who went to Rancho, because some of the techniques. All right, Bill shows them down there to pinch the arrow. Hey, you're one of Coach Parcells. Oh yeah, how'd you know? So we have some of that, but it's just kind of because we know some of the stuff. Oh yeah, but we would love that.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Any more questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Mr. Carly.
Good job.
Okay, next up, we have our report from AVID.
Yay, AVID.
The AVID team,
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's not there.
Advancement via individual determination.
It's on Chrome.
Good job, Brian. Well done.
All right, good evening, board members. Mr. Prado and I will be reporting on the AVID program, and I know you have this in your packet already. Just to introduce our AVID team, our site team, and what we have going here. This is our second year of implementation. So we have Mr. Mario Prado here. He is our site coordinator as well as our AVID 9 elective teacher. He has 5 sections of AVID 9. We have Vicente Ramirez, who is our AVID 10 elective teacher. He used to be our coordinator, but we have transitioned Mario into this position for about February, I believe, and he will continue with the process the rest of this year and as well as next year. I am the district director, and I've had 4 different trainings that I've had to go to in order to get that certificate as district director, so I'm all done with my training. And then the 4 counselors that you see there are part of our counseling team that have all been AVID trained through AVID Summer Institute. So everybody here on the screen has gone through intensive AVID training, as well as our 2 elective teachers that have also gone through other pathway tutorials on tutorology, which is a big component of our AVID program. I'm going to turn over a majority of the presentation to Mr. Prado, since he is the one doing a lot of the work in the classroom.
Thank you. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be before you tonight. Again, I'm the AVID coordinator and second year teacher. So, AVID is a program that stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. I really promote that individual determination in my classroom. I sometimes have to reinforce that and remind students that they're there because they want to be and that they've got goals in life and that they are going to personally pursue those goals by way of their determination. We also hold students accountable to very high standards. My students sometimes interpret that as me being mean. However, I emphasize as well, if you're serious about going to a four-year institution upon graduation, you're going to need to be performing at a specific academic level, and with that, we're going to push you, right? So what does AVID accomplish? Essentially, we prepare students for success in high school, college, and career. And typically we focus on underrepresented students who typically are not going to higher institutions of learning. And how do we implement it? Well, there's a variety of ways. We've got a repertoire of things that we use to implement AVID. Specifically, We foster critical thinking. We train students and teachers to use things like literacy, math skills, and the machine or the vehicle in which we use to get there is with the Wicker strategies. Many of our administration are very familiar with Wicker. This is an image of our tutorial request form, or a TRF. Many of my students love hearing my remind apps, get your TRFs ready. Okay, we're gonna have a tutorial tomorrow, and it's typically followed by a, yes, Mr. Prado, I'm gonna be ready for that because I need that support, right? So you're gonna notice here that Wicker essentially is the entire structure of this document, okay? So we're looking at writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization. As you can see there, that document is very specifically organized, and reading. These are research-based strategies that are embedded in all the AVID lessons. It's essentially a framework for everything that we do in AVID. Employees are looking for students who are going to be prepared with interpersonal skills, communicate well with others, be critical thinkers, and work in collaborative ways to, pursue life, right? The inquiry piece, thinking is not driven by answers, but by questions, which really stimulates student-led inquiry. A lot of my students always ask me for the answer, and I say, let's see how we can get there together, right? So I really push students to think for themselves, essentially. The reading piece, it really promotes close reading, annotating text, reading with a purpose, so identifying the tone, the premise of any said text, identifying words they perhaps don't know or understand, which we can use to develop articulation and further academic vocabulary building. So Wicker is the nuts and bolts of the AVID program. So currently we have 5 sections of AVID 9. Those are my lucky victims, or students as I like to call them. I currently have 141 students. I have lost a few, but because these individuals are moving to other locations in town, I had a young lady recently move to Los Banos. So life happens, I do lose a few kids. I am anticipating on keeping an overwhelming percentage of my students for next year. We have a very high retention rate. Mr. Ramirez is teaching 4 sections of AVID 10. So together we are currently working with sophomores and freshmen, and we are on the eve of incorporating the freshman class of 2021, I believe. So we are definitely in the throes of the recruitment phase for that. We have our students and we're working on getting them scheduled into the appropriate courses. 4 out of 10 of our counselors are trained through the Summer Institute, and they do attend site meetings. We work very closely with the counseling department in getting students the academic needs that are to be expected to be met here, especially with the A through G requirements here at the high school. We have trained 5 content teachers in the AVID strategies in math, English, and social science. So what that is, that's indicative of us beginning to go school-wide. Okay, we've dropped the pebble and the ripples are beginning to permeate this campus. Okay. Next, as I mentioned before, we are anticipating 5 more sections of AVID 9 students for the class of 2021. We, over the course of a couple of months, went to the various feeder schools and we evangelized the AVID message thoroughly, and we definitely had a very robust turnout of individuals. Many parents are actually very passionate about this program. Many parents, when hearing about this program, are exceptionally impressed with this program because they hear of opportunities that perhaps they were not offered in life, and like most parents, they want the best for their student, and for some families the best means going to a 4-year university and getting a degree. We are going to be sending 12 teachers and 2 administrators to the AVID Summer Institute, which is going to be this July, I believe. In about a few months, we are going to be running around the state capitol. And
in the lovely warm weather of Sacramento.
It's extremely warm, yes. But they take care of us over there in Sacramento.
I'm hearing a lot of conferences there.
All right, let's move into some data. data, just so you understand, part of the AVID program, I should say a big part of the AVID program is looking at data, not just collecting the data, but then looking at it and then guiding where we should go with our program. So it is required that we do what's called an initial self-study, the ISS, and during that time we have 11 AVID essentials that we're required to look at, and we rate ourselves on a rubric. How are we doing here? Is it not AVID, not met by AVID standards? Is it routine use? Is it institutionalized? Where are we on that spectrum? So we use that rubric to do the ISS, and then eventually we go through the certification process. And part of that we look at just raw data, just where are we at. So you can see we're more heavily female than male. So that's something that we've taken into account when we think about trying to make sure that we get our male students as well. You can see we're overwhelmingly Hispanic. So that's also part of it as well. Remember that the AVID student is typically your middle of the road student that's first generation going to college. Moving forward, we have 247 students that are currently in AVID now. We've had an extremely wonderful retention rate, which is interesting because after talking to our program manager, she was very shocked to see that we are still continuing to have our students stay within the cohorts that we have, and I really attribute that to our elective teachers. So the students don't want to leave the program, partly because they're getting the support that they need, although they're scared. I will say that they're very nervous about going into advanced and AP classes, and they're nervous because they've never been pushed this hard before, but they also feel very supported by their elective teachers. But we do have 247 students, which means that they need to be on the A through G track so that they can apply to a UC or a CSU. What the goal is that by 12th grade, they are all applying to a four-year university. Whether or not they attend or not is entirely up to them, but that they are applying, that they are taking the SAT. So we're really going into the next year as 11th graders, where we have about 90% of our 11th graders that are taking an advanced or AP course. And these are typically students that wouldn't normally be there. So we're really pushing hard. You can also see our free and reduced lunch. We have 162 of those 247 that are free and reduced lunch population. And we currently have 15 students in 10th grade that are enrolled in an AP class. So they're not required to do advanced AP until around 11th grade. So we're hoping that number is going to jump to about 90% by next year.
Would the majority of those 15 probably be rural AP Europe?
Some of them, they could also be AP Bio.
Or AP Spanish. We got a lot of
that's
kids
your
that are
As a
coming.
sophomore?
Yes.
Yeah, because we got a lot of kids that have come through the Dual Language Academy that are
yeah.
started off with like Spanish 1S, 2S,
Thank
and are
you.
ready to take the Spanish.
It's usually one of those three, kind of those three courses.
So it's really interesting, Elaine and Mario, that our unduplicated count, if you will, our free and reduced lunch rate is 66%, which is roughly, we're at 50%, is that right, Johnny? About 49.8 this year, give or take. So we're about 16.2% above that. I would be interested to see what that looks like next year and the year after.
Correct.
As we start to grow,
Exactly.
to correlate that to our
To what our actually
Yes.
general population.
Yes. Okay, let's make sure we keep track of that, because that's a
So,
good number to monitor.
Just so you know that this is all required. So it wasn't like my fancy idea to, let's look at this data. This is-
credit for it.
No, we know you love data.
This, I do. And I will tell you that this is actually just a snapshot of the data, because I could have given you lots of more pages, and I don't want to do that. This to me was the ones that stood out to me. When we get to seniors, the year that we have seniors, there's about 3 pages of senior data, which is actually really important because it breaks down how many classes, AP or IB, which we don't offer here, or advanced classes they've taken. It talks about how many contacts they've had with counselors, how many universities they applied to, what universities they got into, and then they also track them through their post-secondary education and give us that data as well. So what I really do enjoy about AVID is the fact that it is very, very data intensive, but it's time consuming, but it's really important because now we look at it and we know that we need to recruit more males and possibly more white males, right?
Right now, we currently only have a freshman and sophomore class.
That's correct.
Because we're in the second year of implementation.
So as this comes through, then in our AVID reports, we will find out how many have been accepted.
Correct.
Right.
And where they're at.
2 more years.
That's awesome.
In fact,
And-
AVID provides, if the fourth board members have been here when we used to initially have AVID provides this really nice, like, snapshot data sheet of all of our seniors, and gives us some really good, like a data dashboard that they publicize. It's something that we can really publicize and
Right.
put out to the community to see how effective this program is.
And what we'll be able to do too is look at a comparison next time of how many we started with. So for example, the 10th grade cohort, how many we started with ninth grade, how many have dropped off in 10th grade, 11th, 12th, so that you can see how many we've retained. I can tell you right now, just because I know this, because we only have 2 groups, I believe we've had 5 ninth graders, our current 10th graders as ninth graders. There were about 5 that dropped out. Other than that, everybody has stayed the same.
Elaine, does it go as far as to disaggregate the data? So when we look at our 9th and 10th graders, for example, by gender, we can look at who is designated as an EL, an RFEP,
Yes.
redesignated, special education, all of those, so that we can really see who is in the program, one, and who we could target to get in the program if they met the other criteria.
Yes, so it does break it down by EL as well as special education.
Okay.
It does.
We could even further disaggregate it if we wanted to take an even deeper look at it.
Right. Oh, that's me again. Okay, so one of the prime components is making sure that we are a certified AVID site. So one of our responsibilities, so the site coordinator is responsible for collecting all of the data and all of the monitoring of the 11 essentials, like I spoke of, that we have to rate. And so he has to document along with the site team, and it goes up into a Google Drive. And essentially, once it's all done, then I, as the district director, am able to go in and approve it. I'm able to look at it. So for example, essential number 1 has everything to do about recruiting students and recruiting the right students, making sure we're really getting the middle of the road student. So he has a documentation in there, the contracts, the logs of the different schools that they've visited, things of that sort, and then I check it off. Yes, this is all the documentation we need. Yes, San Benito High School is doing that. We're in an easy school district to work with because there's one school. Many of the district directors that I work with have upwards of 40 schools that they visit that they have to approve and go through the documentation. But the average has about 15 schools that they oversee, and I have 1. And I'm right here on site, so it's actually fairly easy. And so the certification process will not be difficult for us. One of our goals, though, is to go into certification with distinction, which means that rubric, we're all the way over on that rubric, that we're distinguished, that we are really looking at institutionalizing what we're doing with AVID and then eventually going school-wide. Ultimately, the absolute top part of the pyramid for AVID is being a demonstration school. So I have visited, I believe, 5 demonstration schools, elementary, middle, and high school within my AVID training, and they're absolutely amazing.
And that would be part of our strategic plan, right?
Correct. It would be many years out, probably past the 4 years. If we could get to certification with distinction in the 4 years, that would be great. And then AVID school-wide with demo, probably another 3 years. It takes that much time. So.
Thank you. Strengths. We're doing a lot of great things in AVID. We are retaining students, as we mentioned before. Many of my students, they said, if we don't have AVID in Mr. Prado, I don't want to come here anymore. AVID is what I love doing. It helps me in all my other courses. It builds a sense of confidence. There's a phrase I use with my students. We build students and transform lives, right? That is what we're doing here. There's character building involved. There's confidence, touching those public speaking notes. We're going to be building professionals, right? They're professionals in the works. So that is definitely something that I do take pride in with my students. Another strength is we're sending more teachers and educators to the Summer Institute, which means that the staff here on the site are willing to play ball with us and become informed in all things AVID. Providing first-generation students exposure to college universities. This is my group here. We were at SF State about 3 weeks ago or so. And for many of my students, 1, it was the first time they had ever been to San Francisco. 2, the first time they had ever been on a university campus. And there were students who, they're locals, they're natives, they're San Benito folks, and haven't been 90 miles up the road, much less to a university. So for them, it was like Disneyland, an eye-opening experience. They were really looked like, you can wear that at a university? You mean they don't get in trouble on skateboards? No. Welcome to university. There were some individuals with some very politically provocative clothing, and students were just in awe of the culture of college, right? So it's just a very, very inspiring and motivating experience for many of my students, and it was great to be a part of that for them. And I know that they're going to remember that with me. They're going to put that in their memory bank and say, you know what? First time I ever went to university was with this little short guy with a horrible mustache named Mr. Potter, right? And I'm going to put that feather in my cap, right? So full support of our AVID program by administrators and counselors. Clearly, Mrs. Tyler's been an integral role here, and I know wholeheartedly that we have the support of our administration, and that really does transcend to the other departments, and we really do appreciate that. So thank you very much on that. However, there are always going to be obstacles in life, right? And those are the following. We are having slightly a difficult time finding tutors and retaining them. Being as how they are college students, their schedules change from semester to semester, and we are in the middle of nowhere. Okay, we're about 13 miles east of the nearest major highway. So many students, either they're coming from CSUB, San Jose, or Gilroy, it's a trek to come out here, right? And if things need to add up, they have the gas and the time and the money to come out here to assist our students. That does present a challenge. Currently, we have received 2 more tutors, so that ratio that you're looking at is actually 35 to 1. I have 2 young ladies who I believe one's from De Anza and the other one is from Gatlin College, I believe. And my students took to them like fish to water. They absolutely love them. I have a young man named Mr. Martin Corona, and he is, I believe, at GAB as well. And he's going into the biomedical engineering department, so he really stimulates a lot of interesting conversations in the STEM department. And he's my go-to guy for math, so I definitely appreciate his presence in my classroom. Something that I've noticed, especially this year with the recruitment phase, is changing the perception of what the AVID program is to our community at large. All right, so I'm going to these feeder schools and we're talking to teachers and they're referring students to us, and we're beginning to hear that AVID is for perhaps students that need extra support, right, in terms of academic support, like a remedial program. And in fact, and I'm going to speak candidly here with you, we were at a school locally here in town, and the student said, I heard AVID is for stupid kids. And this is from a young lady here in town, and she was actually a little upset that she was a part of that because she felt that she was pegged in said category, and we're like, young lady, no, if anything, first off, that's not the perception you should be having of AVID, okay? And listen to our pitch here, and we're going to tell you what AVID's all about. AVID is for that the middle of the road student, okay? Somebody who's not that 4.0 kid who's going to probably be valedictorian, right? Where that person's on a certain trajectory, okay? We're also not looking for students who perhaps come to school once a month, right? And maybe even turn in an assignment once a semester. We're looking for that kid who's got that passion in their heart, that they know they want to go to college, that they know they want to do something with their life. And in my opinion, personally, that could even mean a trade school. That could even be potentially, the next step is a junior college. Yes, the 4-year is the goal, but I tell my students, so as long as you do something with your life and make something of yourself and become a contributing member of society, in my book, you're a success, right? In my book, you're a success. So the shoe doesn't fit everybody the same, right? Different students, different strokes for different folks. So whatever success is defined for any given individual, that is what I promote, that is what I foster, that is what I nurture, and really try to encourage these young people because they need it. They need it. There is a sense of defeat that some of my students have, and that's my job to chisel that away and build people and transform lives, right? That is what AVID is. Scheduling credit recovery for students who do not pass classes. Yes, we have students in AVID who are not passing a class. Okay, it is a reality, and we need to keep them on the A through G path. So there's summer school as another option, potentially shaving off an elective in a future year and getting them back into that English 9A or whatever it was that their initial hiccup was. So that's where my work comes in, and my colleague and I, we roll up our sleeves and we think of what we can do. Currently, I'm having mandatory intervention sessions from 3:15 to 4:15. I've been conducting them for the past month, and I am notifying folks about current grades, D's or F's. In my book, a D in AVID is a pretty F. So we need to get those to at least high C or better. Okay, and I say, you students, you're going into finals in about 7 weeks. You need to be at a threshold where if perhaps you just don't do well with that final, you're still going to have a C or better in that class. And it's lovely to see all the jaws hit the floor. Okay, because they realize, well, what do you mean I gotta get higher than Ms. Pro? I'm 70, 79%, 71%. I'm good. No, you gotta take a final, bud. Don't forget that final. Okay? So I'm definitely real with my students. Okay, I definitely keep it real with them, as they like to say. But I think that's also what they like about my specific method of teaching, is that I don't really sugarcoat things. I do finesse things when need be, and I get a sense of the room. However, I tell it like it is. And I let them know what the real world is going to expect of them and what I, as their teacher, is going to expect of them. And I definitely have earned their respect for that. So, Elaine?
All right. So
Before
our
you go on,
Yes, sir.
those tutors that are ratio 45:1, do they get paid?
They are compensated, yes.
And who pays them?
I believe it's CalSO.
Yeah, it's
we do, but
through CalSO. So we contract through CalSO, who's housing our, we have an array of services through CalSO. And CalSO is, and so what they do is one of the things that we did in looking at the need, a couple years ago, and the future need for tutors, through CalSO pays them for working for CalSO, and then tutoring is one of the contracted services that we pay each year to CalSO for them to provide us.
Because this would be a great opportunity for them to see Hollister.
Yeah. Yeah, and our big, what CalSO tries to do is they try to place alumni here, try to place folks that have a vested interest in the community and are familiar with the community. But as Mr. Prado said, even with CalSO's help, it's a little difficult because these students, they're also college students driving back and forth to Monterey, San Jose, wherever.
Could be a future principal or something.
That's it.
So our overall goal is obviously to go AVID school-wide, which means that we have our AVID elective students that are AVID students, and they're in that elective class, and they receive the instruction with AVID curriculum, but there are strategies like Wicker that are really good strategies for anybody. So it really can be employed or deployed to all students in AVID school-wide. So what are our next steps? Professional development on the Wicker strategies. That is something that we'd like to roll out to all of our staff members, especially since we have 12 teachers that will be going to the Summer Institute. We are going to try to make sure that we have at least 2 AVID trained tutors in every AVID elective class, which is difficult. So next year we're going to have 5 more sections, which means that's 10 more, right? No. Well, it really won't be 10 because depending on where our schedule is, but we're looking at doubling what our tutors are now, and we're having a hard time with our tutors now. And we do have some ideas around what we can do to help out, not always having a college student. We can also have seniors work with freshmen as well.
Are you guys
And that
writing
is,
to these people that are at, Monterey Bay and?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Are you writing letters, sending letters out, or is that
So we,
CalSO's responsibility?
so we have worked this year primarily under CalSO. So we now know that we need to go beyond that.
Okay, good.
Yes.
There's been many revelations over the past year.
Right.
One of which is that we need to do some serious outreach. And that's locally here and regionally as well.
And thankfully, Mr. Potter has lots of ideas that we've already brainstormed on how we're going to do things differently next year. And we actually get started on it over the summer so that before students have classes scheduled and such, they might be able to schedule around our schedule. So we're trying to get creative with that.
That recruiting, I think, would help.
Right. We need to continue our articulation with feeder schools. Mr. Prado, this was his first year going out to feeder schools, and he immediately found some hiccups in our application process, some of the things that need to be cleaned up so that we get a better sense of that middle student and that communication with the feeder school. So I'm very excited to see the work that he'll do next year. We also need to incorporate an AVID parent night. So there are some ideas around that as well, but we'd like to celebrate what the AVID students are doing, bring the parents on campus, get those parents comfortable with our campus, being able to ask questions questions, interact with the teachers, but also celebrate what the students have done. And we'd like to make that an annual event as well. And please chime in with anything. And then continue building our site team. Right now we have primarily counselors and ourselves, and we want to make sure that we have content teachers that are part of that site team, because we're the ones that go through the rubric and start to make decisions and really look at professional development as well. And again, eventually we end up going school-wide, but it does take some time to get there, especially with the school this size.
So this reminds me of the EOP program. Did you guys ever hear of it?
I've heard of it, yes.
Yeah.
I've heard of it.
Yep.
And I was part of that program, and I became a recruiter, and one of the assignments they gave me, they said, can you go to Hollister? And I thought, why would I want to go there? Because I was from Live Oak High School, and my intention was to either teach at Live Oak or Gilroy. And in 1972, I came down here. I couldn't find Hollister High School. I looked in the phone book. I couldn't find it. You know, it took a long time before somebody told me it's San Benito John Union High School. And then when I got here, I go, where is it? It's not in the main road. And they said, oh, it's one street over. Oh, my God. Finally got in, and the two ladies in there, bless their hearts, they were protective of our small school. So it wasn't a very good experience. So the next year they go, do you not have a permanent? 1973. Holy cow, I met so many good people, this is where I chose to come. So that can happen with any recruiting situation.
Right.
You know, and of course, I see value in that. I mean, when I said the principal, I didn't know I was going to end up teaching here for the rest of my life. But I did find this place because of a program similar to AVID. Because EOP was for people that were not college. Well, college wasn't a reality. The field was. We could pick fruits and do all those things. You know, I knew I was going to work the rest of my life. But it was nice to have college in the future.
Absolutely. And that speaks volumes to our parents as well. Yes, sir.
Could you give us like just a quick snapshot of what, you know, what a class of your AVID program looks like? And what,
Sure.
Yeah,
So things that we do, one of the staples of our program is our tutorials. In fact, I held one this morning, and I will be tomorrow. So if we rewind a few back, you're going to see that here. So, by the way, thank you for our whiteboards, Ron. They're working great. These are some new whiteboards. As you can see, we have some chalkboards there that are probably there before you, Mr. Robledo. And now we've got these whiteboards here. So, to address your question, I do these twice a week. They use TRF, so those tutorial request forms where students are needing to write down any sort of problem in any subject area that they don't understand. And they collaboratively work together to try to solve those problems. So this is something you're going to find always and forever. I also have something what's called College of the Week. So on a weekly basis, I introduce them to a new institution. We go through the private sector. We go through different categories. Right now, I've exhausted the UC system in California, and I'm now chipping away at the CSU. So we talk about where these places are located, graduation rates, tuition, and everything that would be related to that school. Another thing that we do is I give them academic vocabulary words. My students love me for this because they're like, Mr. Carter, are you even speaking English to us? Right? So with that, my goal for me personally, I decided this early on, I want these individuals speaking like professionals by the time they are walking off this campus with a high school diploma. Okay, because in my opinion, once they are in that university setting, they are professionals. Okay, and you need to act and speak like a professional, right? So part of that is developing the academic language, right? So I had a student saying, well, the number on the bottom, you mean the denominator. Please say the denominator. It's not the number on, that one thing on top, the exponent, please say the word exponent. So I'm really pushing these kids with academic vocabulary. I give them 10 words about a week and a half. I show them images, pictures that best exemplify said word. I have them do journal entries so that they are using those words. I have them write original sentences using all of those words, and then they are having to do with AV partners, having to read those words to and with each other. And sometimes sometimes if I'm feeling like fun, we'll do like a little, like a Pictionary session. I'm drawing out this, what does this mean, right? Absolve was one of my words recently. And with our culture, many students can relate to that word with, going to confession. So all I had to do was, what is this word? Absolve, Mr. Prado, absolve. You had a good weekend, right? You need to be absolved. Right? So we had fun with it, right? We had some spice to the lesson, right? Flibberty Gibbet was a fun one. Oh yeah, and they were initially offended and gregarious and other. Don't call me gregarious. You're a very sociable person. That is a very valuable asset, especially if you're planning on going into private sector where you perhaps need to be networking with individuals. It is a compliment. That adjective is not a negative word. Oh, well, I thought you were talking Spanish, Mr. Prado. Well, my friend, you'll know when that is happening. So I really push academic vocabulary, right? Articulation, speaking well, right? Speaking with a sense that you are an outstanding citizen, right? And that's where part of that character building comes in. We also do, we read texts, we read articles from publications, and students are there having a chisel away going through things. If they don't know a word, they have to underline it, define it. That's not the last time they're going to see that word. We're going to work with those words.
So how do you, in your tutorials, how do you decide which, let's say you have half a dozen requests for different math problems,
great question,
reading, English, or how do you decide which to do?
So, the reality is 95% of our TRFs are in math. So, depending on the class, it's Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry. What we do is you see how our students are broken up in these little groups and the whiteboard is broken up into thirds. So my tutors who come in at the beginning of class, they collect all of the TRFs and they do what's called a pre-assessment. So they're checking if they filled out the TRF thoroughly. And that is, it's a one-stop shop. So it is right there, right? So this will be completely filled out. The tutor's job is to assess that briefly and put all the grades and scores. Then they will segregate each specific subject and put them in their appropriate location. Biology is beginning to become a little bit more of a group. But our main one is math. Math, I do get a little bit of language in there. I've had French be a frequent, and Spanish 1S, I believe, has also been a frequent. And then once these kids are in their assigned group, then they will cycle through their little 30-second speech and go on from there.
So Mario, you mentioned 95% of your requests are in mathematics.
That's right.
So why couldn't we use our own students as peer academic support rather than relying on just CalSub folks? That if they wanted to be, enrolled in a course where they would actually make a difference, just like we do with our life skills program. I think we tap into this.
I can tell you the fact that I used to assign all the students, and so one of the things is that those students that are currently, those juniors and seniors out there in the advanced level courses, they have a hard time fitting something like this into their schedule. So those kids are more likely to work. So these are the kids that are applying to the Georgetowns, the UCs, the private schools. And what they're doing is they're trying to get an edge and they're trying to take the next additional advanced level course. We got students, it's not uncommon for an advanced level kid in math to take 2 AP math courses, calc and stats at the same time.
So they don't have a hole in their schedule to actually fill.
And we have that course that gives a letter grade, but it's not an AQG approved course. So in my opinion as a principal, we need to provide, if there's a way to provide a more of an incentive for that student to be able to enroll in that course as a tutor, but also get some sort of, they can reflect that on the transcript. Because right now it comes, on their college application. Yeah. Right now they can put it on the transcript. But that, to me, is one of the biggest pieces of being able to, now we've got some other ideas of how we can still promote that, but the students that are actually qualified to tutor in these courses, our current students, they're taking a lot of advanced courses. And so
they do it after school.
So if I can interject, the AVID system is very particular about the way it's run, and the reason why customized because it's research-based and they've been doing this for over 25 years. So tutorials have to happen in the elective class, so it's not something that happens after school. I am actually required as a district director to go through and actually monitor the tutorials and give feedback to say, this is what I see. Do I see the tables at 6 to 1 as far as 6 students to 1 tutor or 1 adult? You don't have 10 kids around a table squished in trying to get their point of confusion down on a paper. There's very specific things that we monitor. And the other piece is for certification pieces, if we use seniors, we can only use seniors with freshmen. We can't use, even if a senior is really good in math and they're working with juniors, per their AVID ways, the cross age tutoring should really be senior to freshman.
And I actually do have one senior who is a wonderful fit. She comes in in 6th block. Her name's Mariah, I believe. She's a TA over here in the office. Let me tell you, I was pulling out all the stops. I needed to have people in there to tutor my students. In fact, my 6th block, we kind of had a little delay in the tutorial sessions because I didn't have tutors. My tutors were only available in the morning, and I was not happy with the fact that my 6th block still wasn't getting that service. So I have found one, Shawn, and she has been a vital asset. In fact, we even had a conversation with her experience in high school and her process to applying to universities, and she gave some fantastic advice to my freshmen. And I really, really, really appreciated that because for once, it wasn't from Mr. Prado. It was from a fellow Baylor who's only 3-4 years ahead, been there, done that, technically still a student just like they are. Yeah, so it really resonated with these kids, like, whoa, you mean Mr. Prado's not just telling me that because it's his job. Right? So, if I can find more Mariahs.
We definitely have not tapped into all the different avenues we can, so we still got work to do that. I think we can.
I just think it can help so many different facets, right?
Absolutely.
We talked mathematics, we talked about the same student that we're really looking at targeting.
Right.
And then, also some other aspects.
Yes, fitting it all in.
Yeah.
So we're getting there. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So, a couple things came to me through the presentation this evening. Have we ever thought about having an AVID presenter, I know it's only year 2, at the feeder assemblies? So you know how you're talking about all the clubs? Why not get your AVID voice out, because that's prior to scheduling, and therefore that'll help. I'm sure you can talk earlier during the year, at least regarding teachers, so they have something to promote. But then when the feeder assembly comes, that's also a thought. Another one would be, I know it's tomorrow night, but like the 8th grade parent night.
I'll be there. I'll be there tomorrow.
Okay, so that's
I'll be sitting with the counseling department. Something that I want to also suggest, or something I plan on rolling out, is when I am going to go to these feeder schools, that I talk to administrators there and make it mandatory that parents are there. Okay, I've had instances where I'm calling parents and they're like, well, yeah, my kid's in AVID, what's AVID? You signed the contract, parent. You should know what AVID is, right? So we need to rectify that, right? There needs to be a solution for that. So in my opinion, with a lot of work and collaboration, there's a lot of moving parts here. But in order for a student to be taken seriously for the AVID class, I need parents to be in that orientation so they know that their student needs to take at least one advanced class, and they know what's expected of them as a family, right?
So
as a family.
Parent type of.
A student parent. Yeah. And if you are still interested after everything we've said, here's an application, we will process that accordingly.
I think you could get that. At a middle school level, maybe not here. But
every parent I've spoken to has been overwhelmingly supportive. They're just, thank you for doing this, Mr. Prado. This means a lot to our family.
So I tried to get my son in, and it was the year they stopped it. And then it came back, which is fine. But I wanted him to go.
Any more questions?
I'm wondering if next year you could go to the feeder school assembly and watch FFA do their presentation.
Sure.
They weren't always doing it, and all of a sudden in the last few years, they've been going out there, not just with signs, but they'll have 2 cheerleaders, a football player, so that it says FFA is for everybody.
Right.
And I think something like that.
I can bring my current students.
But if you watch them, you'll see what I'm talking about. It only takes them about 3 minutes to get the word message across.
Mario, I would just want to share one thing. I am so impressed. 3 years ago, you were sitting in my office and I was trying to twist your arm to grow you into a teacher here, that you didn't want to go in the path that we wanted you to go in.
Thank you, sir.
Truly.
I just want to say, so my office is about a wall away from Mr. Prato's. And, you know, my son is coming here next year, and, you know, I just think, even before thinking of my son, I just thought, you know, imagine if your kid got to was exposed to that every day.
Right?
You know, and there's days where I can hear, because those are it's an older building, so you
Not
can
just
just
that.
about hear everything. There's acknowledgement, there's clapping, there's these routines and these rituals he has in the classroom that I get to hear through the walls there. But, you know, I think, you know, first of all, thank you, Mario, for what you do for our students, yourself and Mr. Ramirez. I think his biggest strengths is the relationships he builds with students. And I know relationships is research-based. We were just talking to Superintendent Tennenbaum about the 0.72 correlation factor in meta-analysis research on relationships and how it contributes to student success. And so it's not just a touchy-feely thing, but it's research-based. Strong teacher-student relationships absolutely promote academic success. Between his leadership as a coordinator, Mrs. Clower's leadership as a director, I mean, we're headed in a really good direction here with the AVID program.
Great job, guys.
And imagine if that goes school-wide.
Yep.
Thanks for your great report.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along, board. Next, we have a public hearing, and first we're going to have it introduced by Tennenbaum. This is our CSEA proposed collective bargaining agreement.
Thank you, Trustee Tiffany and board. So good evening. It's a pleasure to be up here once again. I'll make this short and sweet here. This is the follow-up to what we did last board meeting, which was the ratification of the Teachers Association tentative agreement. So you've had an opportunity to take a look at Exhibit L4. I would ask that you conduct a public hearing tonight, and after the public hearing, if you could so graciously accept the tentative agreement, we'll be able to move forward.
Thank you. Any board comments, questions before public hearing? Okay. Okay, we'll close this hearing, open public hearing. Is there any member of the public who would like to address the board on this subject? If not, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to board. Any questions or comments by board members? I move adoption.
Second? Yes?
Yes.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next we're up to our principal's report. So you were just, we know that you were just before us last week, so.
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit, there's a lot goes on here, so, but anyhow, as you guys may have seen on social media and on our webpage, last week, we had a couple different members of our school that coordinated events to commemorate Cesar Chavez's birthday, which is recognized as a state holiday here in the state of California. So, as you guys know, Mr. Perez coordinated a series of presentations in collaboration with the casino. They did these octos, which are these like one-act plays, which really teach the kids about where the theater was born out of through the casino. So that was very well received and attended. And then our LULAC Youth Council was able to secure and invited Cesar Chavez, one of his grandsons, Andres Chavez, 23 years old, looked like he could have been a senior here, and came, and it was just very impressive. He spoke as a volunteer assembly on Friday on his actual birthday. He did a great job, and I think students really took to him because they saw themselves. He looks like me, you know, he looks my age. So they did a great job, so we're really proud of that. This past weekend, I was down in San Luis Obispo area, Rio Grande, where we had about 13 FFA students who were awarded their state degrees. It's a regional ceremony. I mean, it's impressive, the accomplishments, not just of our students, but the students in the local area. You know, I was very fortunate that students nominated me for a star administrator, along with Claire Grissom was recognized through the region, and so was Irma Lozano for the work that she does with the program. So San Benito High School was very well represented across the state here at this presentation. 8th grade preview night tomorrow. We kick off at 5:45 in the Madison gym. So of course, all of our board members, you know, as always, you know, want to welcome to come. If you come at 5:45, I would love to introduce you.
Chocolate patty and one.
So if you show up a little, let's say you're there about 10 minutes beforehand, and that way, in the very beginning, our dance, visual performing arts program is going to do like an opening presentation, and then our ASB president, Ron Clower, will welcome our folks, and then I will also welcome folks and introduce, obviously, our
Begins at what time, Adrian?
you could be there 5:35.
Well, what time is the, like, the beginning?
5:45. It starts at 5:45.
Are they still introducing the new officers?
The reason we're not doing that this time is because Mrs. Lemos will be across the way actually doing the interviews. And so Myla Smiley, who's been elected as our new ASB president for next year, she's in the middle of those. So the way this worked out, I had to reschedule 8th grade preview night because it fell on the week that we were going to Great Oak. So
they're not done with interviews yet?
they'll be doing them as we're doing 8th grade preview night.
Yeah.
So we've got that. Under the coordination and leadership of Mrs. Clower, our testing guru here at the school, we are in the middle of SBAC talks in our English 11 classes, and so she's put together a really nice brief presentation in between all our schools administrations going in, starting today, and really talking about some of the key components, breaking it down for them, talking about the incentives, what it's going to look like, and answering a lot of questions. So our kids are very, giving us a lot of good feedback, and also asking a lot of good questions about the test. Incentives. So one of the things we do is we realize we need to do a better job of how explaining to the students of their performance on the SBAC test, how that benefits them, especially through the CSU system, and they can actually be exempt from taking placement exams. Some of the other pieces, we break down how that score is also looked at in combination with the ACT and SAT. And then, really, we were sitting there, like what I did today is I was an English 11 AP. I said, what would drive you guys to put a very honest effort? So they gave some good feedback. I can tell you the most frequent fetus. It was food. We'll give you all we got. Right? I know. That's it. They're like, yeah, just feed us. So, we were texting. I was texting the team. I said, hey, can we provide light snacks and we've done that in the past.
We get them donated,
yeah.
There's also an attendance incentive. I have Java cards to give out, just randomly picking to make sure they're there and on time.
Coffee motivates them.
Did you guys mention anything about Meet or Exceed, getting some sort of recognition? Are they interested in that?
Yeah, so I talked to I was in 2 11 AP classes, and one of the things that will happen at the end of this month, early May, is we'll be providing academic block awards. And I can bring to the board at a future meeting what the criteria is for that. But one of the things we want to do that we haven't done in the past is recognize growth, significant growth, versus a cumulative GPA or both. And then we used to give a recognition for their performance on the CST and the high school exit exam. So,
why not?
Whether a student has a letterman's jacket or not, a lot of students will put it in a nice frame and display those. And so Ms. Bancourt is helping me sort of looking into what that would look like, how much it costs, and then how early we need to order it. So we've got some good ideas.
How about something they could put on their graduation cap since they get the deck credit this year?
That's true. They could. I mean, essentially they could. And we're actually...
Well, is it early? We have information back by then, though?
We would do it. So one of the things what I need to do is I should move the recognition of the academic block probably to January. Because really what you do is you do it based upon the previous year. And so once you do it in, like, for example, this year we do it in April, students are looking at what's right now and in front of them.
They're trying to do.
Really the seniors, it would benefit them because they're going to be moving on. But if we do it in January, it would give folks time to be able to decide how they want to display something like that. So that was Mrs. Bedford's idea. She said, we need to do this in January. I said, you're right. Yeah, so we're in the middle of SBAC talks. It's going really well. And then when we get back from the spring break, SBAC testing. I think I commented on this in previous meeting, but starting April 18th through, we don't think it'll go all the way to the 18th, but those first 2 weeks when we get back, students will be testing with their own teachers in their own English and math classrooms. So teachers will have their own students. And so Ms. Clower has put together a team committee who's doing a really good job at putting it all together. And then once we're done with that, we roll right into AP testing in the first 2 weeks of May. So we've got that going. You know, we talked about math. Of course, you're seeing the great work that our DCs are doing. Last week for 2 days, Director Crowpower coordinated having professional development for our math department, specifically having them really take a deep look at their standards and begin the process of prioritizing their standards. And so we hired Tom, who the staff refers to him as Tom the Canadian. His name's Tom Herrick. He is from Canada. Comes from that PLC philosophy model. And I was able to sit in for a little bit of time on the second day, and it was some really good work and some critical, tough conversations being had in the room. And we're going to continue that work with the math department. We're even looking at how we can contract with him for multiple years so that we can hit more departments. So we can update more on that.
Just add to that we did invite our caterers.
Oh, that's right.
And we had several middle school teachers come. We had two from Spring Grove, one from Show, and then Santa Ana. And so that collaboration in terms of algebra and looking back to 8th grade before it's past algebra was really powerful.
You know, as far as our instructional leadership team, our DCs, our program specialists, I couldn't be happier to see one of our DCs model some of the frameworks and philosophy that we all learned at the joint boards meeting, and I was at the PD earlier. So the two real focus areas that we've been focusing on the last couple of weeks with our leadership team, instructional team, is prioritizing standards and making sure that we have that first foundational step down before we move forward. And then this last Monday, I stole a lot of Eric Waddell's, pretty much picked a bunch of his material, and we sat with our instructional leadership team so that each leader could assess where each of their teams are across that continuum from cooperation, coordination, and true collaboration. And so we're actually seeing some things happening, some movement.
Bet you there were some ahas there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you see someone like Ed Schmidt,
Right?
who has no problem being very
Dude, I'm high.
honest, and then we have some younger DCs who we need to support and help them, you know, provide them with the tools necessary to help move their teams along the next part of the you know, the continuum there. So some really good stuff. It's not, you know, what I really like about it is that we're now seeing the good intentions turning into actions, which is great. And other than that, you know, April 28th at the end of our SBAC testing, it will all be kind of kicked off and celebrated with two major events. One, an academic rally. We'll be recognizing, you know, our students with academic accomplishments, and also recognizing during the lunch break, we'll be feeding all of our 11th graders for their work in the assessment. So yeah, just in 1 week, this is what we, that's the update there. So we're rolling.
I would commend you that everything that we've talked about in the strategic plan and Elaine and yourself, Derek, you know, is actually translating into action. And so we're not deviating from the course. That's really impressive. Good job.
Okay, Mr. Tennenbaum.
Okay, so this past Saturday, thank you to Trustee Corrigan and family. I think former Trustee Rodriguez and many others. We had our first ever community tour here. We had 40 members from students, prospective students, families, the mayor, county supervisors, Benito Link. It was very successful. I received a lot of positive feedback. I hope Trustee Corrigan and others have received positive feedback. You know, they are going to do an article, Benito Link on that.
Looks great online, and people were actually like, sorry, I couldn't miss it, I'd like to go to the next one.
Yeah, we will.
So
I ran by a couple of parents, and Adrian's been gracious enough. We're going to do a coffee at the high school with Adrian and I for 9 o'clock during the week for folks that would like to come and just tour the school while school's in session, but not while students are out on brunch and lunch, but actually can pop into a classroom. I've invited a few community members already sitting in the audience. We'll see you at 9 o'clock, Monica, to get on campus. And I think it's just a way to help demystify, you know, that Samuel High School is overcrowded, Samuel High School is not meeting the academic needs, Samuel High School is not doing this. We are doing so many great things. So that's going to happen the week of April 17th. For the coffee, so we'll just schedule that. We'll invite you as well, and look forward to that. We had an opportunity to be at Legislative Action Day with 400 administrators yesterday. It was a fantastic experience. Super happy that we were there. I think that we forget sometimes that you can all make a difference when you actually are passionate about it and speaking on behalf of students. The three things that we spoke about were state budget, really making sure that we had adequate funding and beyond the LCFF 100% threshold. We have in our state constitution that we're going to be in the top 10% of states that are funded in public education. We're actually in the bottom 10%.
Oh, yeah.
So when we look at this, and the governor is trying to defer $859 million, I believe it is, Roseanne, from June to July, playing the shell game of money again. The urge from AXA and administrators across the state was to fund us adequately, fund us so that we're a top 10 in the nation, but don't defer money. That's important to us. The second piece was extending the probationary period for teachers to add a third-year option, which, number one, would help the entire recruitment and retention pipeline. When you factor in, and this was my big push with the folks we met with, was that you go to school as an undergraduate, you incur $50,000 worth of debt, you have to go to school to get your credential, you're another $20,000 in debt, you start the profession of your choice, you're now $70,000 in debt, and within 16 to 18 months you're released and non-reelected because apparently the district has some doubt in you. And we wonder why we have a teacher shortage in the United States. California has the shortest probationary period of any state in the United States of America. So, if we can get support for this, it would really help not only support teachers, it would help districts, it would help our recruitment pipeline, it would help our retention efforts, and nobody hits their stride in their profession in the first 16 to 18 months.
Well, didn't we discuss this at the retreat?
Yeah.
We were in the new teacher area, and automatically we're looking for a third year of mentorship right off the bat because you're not being evaluated anymore. So you finally have a chance to shine, and you're flailing. And so to have that spent, without the umbrella of being looked at, now you're getting the chance to shine, and there's no help anymore.
Yeah.
So I think it needs to be more.
And we had a real good cross-section of folks from Region 10, and it was nice. And our third effort was EL support and reform, specifically targeting having a statewide eligibility criteria that has equity in it, where District A isn't basing, EL criteria on one type of test, and District B is doing it on a different test, and there's no equity in that. So people are redesignating early, people are redesignating later, people aren't being captured in it. It's having equity for our ELs across the
Is that because they're not using the same self-test?
Yep. Everybody's
I thought you'd use the test.
using all kinds of different countries.
If there are additional criteria besides just the test for reclassification.
Yeah, so it's what happens, is once you throw a label on a student and you get these students that are now becoming ELs and they're now in support classes, and you now pull them out of AVID opportunities, and these are the students that are the most likely, in our state of California, most likely to drop out. So this may not seem as significant, but when we look at the totality of what it does over a student's educational career, it is huge. So that was a fantastic opportunity, and I'm hoping more administrators will take advantage of that in the future. Legislative Action Day is a really good way, Adrian, to get involved. Not to single you out. We have an admin retreat this week. We'll be looking at scheduling, staffing, looking at strategic plan. It's at Adrian's house, thank you. So that'll be Thursday night. Strategic plan is really picking up steam. We have retreat number 3, April 22nd. Great cross-section of folks will be invited, and many have already secured their position. Derek's doing a great job of meeting with stakeholders throughout the district still, and really just doing a bang-up job. The academic task force, all invitees, 15 of them have been identified. Invites are going out. Thank you to Adrian for helping me with the parents and the students. We have So I'm looking forward to get that moving. The funding relief for school closures, if you remember, based on the storm, has been approved by Superintendent Lamonto, and it's on its way up to CDE, so I'll keep you posted there. Teacher recruitment this week, we have Cal Poly and Sonoma State, and really excited. I really appreciate the crew going to Davis this past week. What I can share with the board in my 12 years or more of teacher recruitment, I've never seen a year with such low numbers of candidates, but also the number of candidates that aren't even responding to text messages, Facebooks, Twitters, phone calls. It's a tough year. I mean, I'm on like my 17th text to one person.
Yeah, you gotta go recruit from another school district.
And I say that because it's indicative everywhere. We're no different than other districts. But what I can tell you is that there is a disparity between the type of district that we are in versus, say, a Palo Alto or a Santa Clara. That just will always exist. We have the April 6th intergovernmental meeting this Thursday. I'll be there to support the efforts on the aquatic complex in Judd Shuts. April 11th, if you'd like to attend, I'll be speaking to the county supervisor meeting on the aquatic complex, going through our facilities and urging the joint use agreements.
What time is that?
Yeah.
It's 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, which one are we talking about though?
The 11th?
The 11th is 9, yes. So I'm going to be...
And that's where at? The Chambers? Like downtown?
That is downtown.
Corner of 4th and West.
It's the corner of Forest West.
I can give you
Oh,
that.
Yeah, I think it is.
So, and 9's when the meeting starts. So
All the
who
way.
knows when,
Yeah, I'll let you know when my agenda item is.
Interim. What's it called?
The 11th is counting, kind of suits the 6th is intergovernmental.
Yeah, so two different meetings. The 6th is 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock, excuse me. Thursday,
County
yeah.
Soups is the
The
11th,
county's the 11th at 9.
and that's the one down on where we had where we all, can't talk right now.
But you're,
So I'll be pushing those efforts. Appreciate Trustee Corrigan and Trustee Nemi following through on walkthroughs on the 19th. I have you scheduled for special education and science. Thank you. We'll have your list ready and you'll pick it up with Dana again. Neighborhood advisory meeting. Thank you, Adrian and Jeremy, for your efforts there. Next meeting's on May 3rd. If any of the board members would like to attend, I'll be able to attend my first one. It's all falling on school nights for me, so I'll be there. Thank you. My highest priority this month for the month of April is to meet with Ignacio Velasquez, our mayor, and get this MOU worked out. To actually put a little pressure there. We got him on camera, tape, whatever it was, saying that that's a high priority, so let's see if we can get it done in April. Just to remind the board, we are moving forward with the joint board meeting with HSD on June 6th. I solidified that on Monday with Lisa Andrews at Sacramento Legislative Action Day. So I'll let you know the time. It'll be a one-item board meeting on mathematics, and we'll map out the talking points and different pieces and how we'd like it to flow. But I'll get your input along the way to build that.
April what?
It's June 6th.
See, I had a board meeting that day, so I was wrong.
I don't think that will be a 7 o'clock session. I'll work it out with her and let you know. So that's a good movement. The letter to the community is almost done. I should have that out and ready by Wednesday, probably midday or Thursday morning. That's on the project list for Measure U, Measure G, and the Citizens Oversight Committee. That'll go to Adam at the Benito link, and it'll be the next letter out. CASBO's next week. Myself, Roseanne, Kim Ferroni will be down, and hopefully this should be good. I'm really excited for this one.
Oh, I was just waiting on Steve.
No, there's Steve. And then last but not least, really appreciate the 3 trustees, John and Patty and Juan, for attending tomorrow night's 8th grade preview night. That's a really big deal, and I know you know that one, but it is a really big deal, and I really appreciate that, so.
Okay, thank you. So now it's time for requests for information, reports from board members.
I got nothing this time. There's only me today.
I do. Sorry, I'm changing the dates of the board meetings, they got messed up. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for the acceptances of the students on the Facebook and everything, so thank you, that was a huge thing for me. So, I like it, actually, the group by college. That was a great idea. So I know you had to get back and get a bunch of people, good idea with that. That way there's not 45, but it's still great to have them consistently updated. I liked it on the board when I walked in. That was super nice, thank you. I would like to put on the agenda, future agenda items, that we set some non-negotiables as a board regarding the PLC process, grading and common informative assessments, and their commitment, and guaranteed curriculum. You guys are right with that? Putting that on the future agenda item?
If you inform the stakeholders, they have a choice to leave, then that'd be.
Thank you.
Yes!
We can also start working, discussing that, looking at that in our DC meeting, so that communication starts to go
Yeah,
out.
so they're not surprised.
Absolutely.
You can make sure we front load it.
Yeah, let's give everybody plenty of time to.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes it's not just the leaders, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
as the teachers know.
If we could do it, maybe Adrian, shoot for May
Yeah. We
30th,
don't want-
I think is the board meeting, that would give us 2 months to really front load and get everything out.
Yeah, I really don't want to
Yeah,
assume that we're
give
not,
yourselves plenty of time.
yeah, and I don't want them to think that we don't think they're doing their job. But if we have a new strategic plan, then we need to guide somehow or set parameters because they're looking for some sort of guidance, and let's set it going so they don't think that we're being evaluative, more of assisting.
Right. Clear direction, clear expectations,
Yes.
of support, appreciate it. Yep.
One? Yeah.
I have just one thing. Could somebody send me the supervision map again with time zones and
I'll send-
times and names?
We'll have it
Just
tomorrow.
so I kind of.
I'll send it to all 5.
Yeah, whatever. Thank you.
I just have a couple things to report, so to speak. I was able to finally attend one of these bell schedule meetings last Wednesday. It was extremely informative to me. I was very impressed. There was a young math teacher that presented on her experience at Oak Grove. Ms. Clower did a terrific job, kind of like overseeing the process. And what I really liked, she set a specific timeline with goals. All the teachers there seemed, really enthusiastic about having, a during the day time period to, kind of have a intervention tutorial. They talked about what they had observed at Oak Grove and how well it seemed to be working now. And they also talked about how that some of the people they talked to at Oak Grove discussed some of their growing pains. And I thought that was really good because hopefully, we'd be able to avoid some of those. But yeah, it was very impressive. Ms. Lemos talked also about some of the connections that were obvious at this high school between, I guess what we would call link crew and incoming kids. And even though I guess it's a very large high school just like ours is, everybody said it was a place where you immediately felt, this inclusiveness that was evident amongst the kids and the staff. Yeah, I was impressed. I was impressed with their ideas and how excited they are, and hopefully they'll be able to make a concrete proposal. I didn't realize how much lead time was necessary. I think you're talking about really next year, but then I started thinking about how time it takes to do master scheduling, I don't know, that makes sense, so. Anyway, that was really good, and I'm really glad that committee's, there, and that Ms. Clower is pushing them, which I think is excellent.
She's not letting us off the hook.
Yeah, that's no, I really enjoyed it. And real quick, I happened to meet, because you brought it up, I happened to meet the mayor on the street Monday, I guess, and he commented about how impressed he was with the tour. He said, I love it.
It was really good.
It's good. So Steve,
Yeah, you need to meet your agenda items.
No, okay. I'll just bring Steve. Okay, so, let's see, we need, if none of the consent items are going to be pulled, we need a motion with respect to consent.
Second,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So now we're going to close our regular meeting and go back into